Karen Zander. Welcome to the St Augustine Chronicles podcast. Today on my show, I have Captain John Zaruba from the Schooner Freedom. The Schooner Freedom, if you haven't done it, it's one of my if you haven't been on a sail, it's one of my favorite things to do in St. Augustine. I love it because people who are older enjoy it, kids enjoy it. It's relaxing, it's entertaining, you learn some things, you see some marine life, and it's the best way to view our Nights of Lights, which is coming up. But I don't think people know your story. I don't think people know how you got here, and I don't think people know a lot about how you created the thing that is now the Schooner Freedom, the business that is now the Schooner Freedom. So I always start by asking people, did you grow up here?
So I grew up in Jacksonville, the north side of Jacksonville. Went to high school at Andrew Jackson. And then when I graduated from high school, I started sailing, and eventually within the next couple of years, sailed down to sailed up to Charleston, down to the Keys, bought my own boat, did that. Moved back to this area when my mother was sick. So came back up here to help take care of her. And was in between boats at that point, and met my now wife during that time, and we bought a boat together, rebuilt it, and moved back to the Keys for about 10 years.
And so when you say you were on a boat, or then you and your wife bought a boat, what were you doing? Like, how did you pay the bills, for example?
So we would work, and we worked steady for a couple of years, save up money, rebuilt the boat. And then we were on our way to the Caribbean, and we stopped in Key West to work maybe another 6 months to save up some more cruising money. And 6 months turned into 8 years, a house, a cat, and 2 kids. Yeah.
So when you say work, you weren't working on the boat. You were working some sort of land job, normal job, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it normal. So I worked and eventually ran a water sports company in Key West, taught windsurfing and sailing, and we had wave runners and 70 bicycles and 30 scooters, and so I managed all that for a gentleman, and my wife did the accounting part of it.
So you have a lot of experience doing things for tourists. You have a lot of experience providing experiences.
Correct. That's pretty much what I've done my entire adult life, and I love the tourist industry because it's a very clean industry. It's amazing how well the tourists, when they come to another town, how well they take care of your town, and it's also nice that they spend money and go back home and make room for more tourists. So I think as far as industries goes, it's one of the cleanest, and it's a profitable industry. So
it's kind of cool too how they appreciate what we have here. As locals, we kind of tend to take it for granted. I know I lived at the beach for 16 years, and I really didn't go out on the beach that much because I lived there, you know? I think we tend to just sort of think, all this stuff is just here.
Right. It's kind of, I think the analogy that a lot of people use is they have a pool in their backyard.
Right.
They use it the first year, and then then it's a nuisance. So, but yeah, in the Keys were beautiful. And we wanted, at that point, we were looking for a change, and so we bought the Freedom. We knew that, I guess I'll backtrack. With the 2 kids, we had 2 or 3 options at that point with the kids to make a change in our life. One was to raise them in the Keys, which is a great lifestyle. The downside to that is you're isolated down there, and so the kids don't get some of the diversity that they would have living in other locations. Living in St. Augustine or the Jacksonville area, you can go to Orlando, you can go to Atlanta, there's so many places around here to go do stuff and do other things other than fishing and sailing, which is not all bad, but it's...
Yeah, but that's the life down in the Keys.
Right, and so we wanted to give our kids a little bit broader experience. So one was to, move somewhere, get real jobs, raise the kids, and then go sailing down the road.
That probably didn't sound too appealing.
Not for a sailor, no. The other one was to take the kids, and a lot of sailors put their kids on a boat, go sailing, and homeschool them. And homeschooling, especially now, has come a long way, and it's really a great venue for kids.
I did it for 16 years before the internet.
Okay, so you can appreciate how hard it is.
It's very hard and time consuming.
So Sarah and
It's
I,
a commitment.
yeah, oh, absolutely, and we contemplated that for about 3 minutes, and then we realized we are not the parents to homeschool our kids. That's for special people like you. We are not those people. So we knew immediately. We just threw that one off the table. That was not there. So the third option was, let's start a charter business so that we can go sailing every day, raise the kids in a somewhat of a normal environment so that they can choose what they want to do and not be kind of pigeonholed into being sailors. And then when they get in their 20s, we can sell the business and go sailing on our own boat. So that was kind of that was the path we decided to choose.
And so you grew up in Jacksonville. What did you think of St. Augustine when you were growing up?
Oh, we loved it. We used to always come here Easter Sunday and go to the fort and do the sunrise service. And I sold Hobie cats down here off the beach long time ago, and we used to surf up and down here. So it's I've always loved St. Augustine. It's like a whole nother world.
Yeah.
Only 45 minutes away.
Yeah, it totally is. I lived in Jacksonville for a little while when I first moved to Florida. It's very different.
It is in a complete great way.
Yeah. You got to have both. You got to have the industry that Jacksonville has, those big employers, and more of a big city feel.
Right.
And then St. Augustine is so unique. There's nothing like it. I really believe there's no place in the United States like St. Augustine.
Completely agree. And I think that a lot of people in Jacksonville don't even know about us. It's crazy when I'll get people that have come down here, they get on the boat, they go sailing, they're like, wow, I guess I didn't realize that St. Augustine was, one, so close, and two, so beautiful. So it's great to see that.
It's the whole in your backyard thing.
I know.
So you decided you were going to get a charter boat. How do you find, do you call it a boat or a ship? What do you call the Freedom?
It's right on that cusp. They say 65 feet is where the demarcation of being boat and ship is. Another group says that if you can carry a boat on top of your boat, then it's a ship. So, but I'm, some captains take it personally. It's either one, a boat or ship. It's a tall ship as far as the rigging. So it's a Class B tall ship, which means it's traditionally rigged as the old schooners were. So its classification is Class B tall ship.
Okay. So how do you find a ship like the Schooner Freedom? How does one find that?
Boat trader. Boat trader. So my dad was sick, and we were he was having surgery, and we were in the hospital room, and Sarah, there's a boat trader there for some reason, and Sarah picked it up and was looking through it and found the Freedom in no other place than LaBelle, Florida. I don't know if you've ever been there.
No, where's that?
Central Florida, right off the Okeechobee. No place that you would ever expect.
Central Florida?
Yes.
How did it get stuck there?
The barge canal goes across there, and the previous owner had it behind a house there, and we were the first ones to look at it, and it's like love at first sight. We had sold our other boat, and my wife, knowing how I am, we put the money from the other boat in a account just for a boat. So it didn't.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it. Because I told her, I said, when we sell it, I might 2 weeks later say, I can't take this anymore, not having a boat. We might need to buy another one. So anyway, she found it. We went down and looked at it, wrote a check for the deposit, had no idea how we were going to finance it, and that's that. So,
what kind of condition was it in? Because it's a beautiful ship now. Beautiful.
It looked good, but they had covered up a lot of the bad stuff on it. So it took us about a year to rebuild it, and we slowly took it around from port to port as we worked our way up here to help my dad, and rebuilt it along the way, and it took us about a year.
So you knew you were going to base in St. Augustine? That was part of the plan?
No, had no idea. I'd like to say we were very smart, and we did a demographic search and all that. It's strictly, let's just go with it. So we came up here because my dad being ill, and driving back and forth and around. We took him out to dinner here in St. Augustine, and remember driving across the bridge, Bridge of Lions, and not seeing a large sailing vessel here. And so the next day we came and talked to the dock master and said, this is what we'd like to do. And there was a big paddle wheeler at the time at the end of the dock. They did dinner cruises,
Mm-hmm.
and the paddle wheeler was for sale. And he said, well, as soon as they sell the paddle wheeler, you can rent that slip. So I think that took about 6 months for them to sell, but we were still working on the boat anyway. So, but we decided this was the spot at that point. We looked at the harbor. Sarah and I had sailed in and out of here with our other boat before, so we knew the area.
It, yeah.
And so we kept working on the boat, and Sarah came up to me. She says, "Okay, you've got like 2 weeks of money left. So you can work on the boat as long as you want, but you're gonna have to get a real job now. And so the boat was just about done. So we put it in the water, and we brought it to the city marina, and we put it in another slip because the paddle wheeler was still there. And we had everything organized to start running charters, but we couldn't get in and out of the other slip on a regular schedule. And I guess it might have been 6 days the paddle wheeler sold, and within the 2 weeks we were in our slip running charters.
Is that the slip you're still in now?
Correct. Yeah.
So you also were there when the old Santa Maria restaurant was there, which was I always told people that's a one-time only restaurant.
Well, we would come in.
In spite of that, right. You stayed.
We would come in to do our docking. We have one method when the tide is running in, we get real close to Santa Maria. And we would ask, when they'd open up the doors to feed the fish, we'd ask if we could get some shrimp to go or stuff, kind of a drive-through for us. But it never transpired, but we tried.
So you opened up, you started the charters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that there was anything else like that then. The paddle wheeler was a cruise more.
Correct. Yeah. So we were probably the first boat to do like an all-inclusive multi-passenger type venue. We learned that down in the Keys because running the water sports company, we booked people from the hotel that we worked at. We booked people on catamarans and schooners and seaplanes and all that. So we knew what to expect from the charter industry. And now we're in that situation. We knew what the complaints were from customers over the years when they would go on the boat and come back to our water sports company and say, well, we didn't like this, we didn't like that. So some of the big business decisions we made was to do our sunset trip even if we only have 4 people, because we understand the customer comes, they're staying at a hotel, they get booked on a trip, they come down to the boat, and in the Keys they would say, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have enough people, we'll schedule you for tomorrow.
Well, yeah, that's not a great customer experience.
No, and the customer,
not my fault.
Right. So even if we only had 4 people, and it's just myself and my wife and 2 crew members, and we're like, okay, well, we'll go sailing for food, and life is good. We're going sailing. So we made it a habit to run like that, and then the customers were always happy. And there were, we went through so many hard times over the years, from 9/11. I remember when we had all the fires and we had the smoke blowing in from the west, and you couldn't even see the sunset sometimes.
Yeah.
We'll say the first or second years, 2000, 2001, we had red tide for a summer. Everybody's coughing and all that. Then of course we had the recession, and I mean it's just the list goes on. But being a small family business, you can be fairly resilient.
Well, I remember the first time I went on a cruise, a sunset cruise with you, your kids were little. I don't remember your daughter so much, but I remember your son being down, I don't know what you call it, down.
He was in the aft cabin.
Yeah, and I had to go to the restroom, and so I went downstairs, and he was just down there. He was very friendly, but I would guess he was probably 4 or 5 maybe.
Right. So he was 1 when we bought the boat, and so he's 21 now. He has 1 more semester of college. No other place than Colorado, as far away from home as possible.
He's a little landlocked.
So and he chose that, but he still worked all summer with us. And as I said earlier, the goal was to get them through school, let them do their thing, and sell the business. Well, both of my kids want to be part of the business now, so we have to rethink everything.
So retirement may come a little bit later?
Yeah, because I'll have to be more hands-on as I mean, we won't just give them the business. They have to,
Right.
and they have earned it. They've worked on it since they were kids. So my son has one more semester there. So he's 21, 6 foot tall. He's not a little 4-year-old guy anymore. And he's working on getting his captain's license. And my daughter, who is 4 years older than him, is sailing on a yacht in Spain right now. It's like a 180-foot yacht. And she is working on her captain's license too, and she comes back and she does all our social media stuff and all that. So this is way out of my realm. I'm not in my wheelhouse right here. This is her stuff, but
she can do that from anywhere.
She can't do this. She should be here doing this.
No, you're the captain.
And so she's working on her license too. They both have the time. They just need to settle down and take the exam, and then they still have a lot of learning to do. A lot of practical skills they have to learn. Even being on the boat for 20 years, they still, there's a lot to it.
So your wife Sarah is involved heavily as well. You and she are very much involved in the business. It's a family business. So you've got so who's in charge, by the way?
She's in charge. I get 2 hours a day to be in charge. When we're on the boat and the Freedom's away from the dock, then I'm in charge, providing I don't cross a line.
Well, I did see on your website she's an admiral and you're a captain.
Absolutely, yeah. So she's always in charge.
Smart man.
And she makes it a habit to, if I'm running the boat, she still comes out sailing with me, kind of more of just to hang out with me. After all these years, she still likes sailing with me.
Well, so my question was, so I have a business that I own with my husband, and I can tell you that it is challenging because we're together every day and a lot of the day. And so it can be very challenging to be married to someone and then spend so much time with them also in the business, and you have different styles, and it
Right.
can be a challenge, and it's not always easy. But you have made it additionally challenging in that you've got your 2 children in the business as well. How is that? That's just got to be incredibly challenging.
It actually is not. And I'll tell you why. First of all, the relationship with my wife and myself is we have our separate roles, and they don't cross very often. She does the bookkeeping, manages the office. I do the ship and all that. So it's very rare that they cross. So we have our roles, and I never want to do what she does, and she doesn't want to do what I do. So that part's pretty easy. I think the only time it was hard was back in the earlier days where I would say, I need to buy a new sail, or I need to buy this for the boat, and she'd say, well, the kids need to eat. And so I'm like, well, really, they ate yesterday. Is it really that important? So she probably has the harder part of the job, especially in the tougher times, of stretching the money and allotting it to the bills and doing all this. That's much harder than being a captain going sailing. So that part is pretty easy for us to separate. I think she probably doesn't feel like she gets the respect or appreciation, being behind the scenes, but believe me, I would never want to, I couldn't do her job. So, and then with the kids, they learned early on. My daughter Sydney started working, actually crewing on the boat when she was 12. And so I told her, you can't act like my daughter if you want to get paid. So there's no huffing and puffing, stomping your feet, eye rolling, none of that. You want to get paid, then you have to act like a crew member. So, and they've always, I think it might be easier because I am their father, and they grew up sailing with me. So whether it's respect for their father or respect for my ability, or it's just all they know, they, or I may be blind, I don't, but they do very well with me, giving them orders. I think the hardest part is the time we're coming into now where I'm teaching them to run the boat, and that's harder because they're older and they have their own ideas, and I have the experience.
Yeah.
I think now we're starting to get more in that hard phase.
Yep.
Up until now, they've just been a crew, and my kids know their role as a crew.
Yeah.
It's different as an equal.
Yeah.
So we're starting to You know, they're starting to tell me their ideas, and I want to say, well, you know, I've got 20 years of doing it, and it's not going to work. And so, how much do you let them do, and make the mistakes, and
and at what expense do the mistakes get made, right?
Right. So it's more challenging for me, and probably for them too, at this age than it has been up until now.
Well, I have to tell you, one of the things that I like about when I'm on a sail with your crew is that it feels like I get the sense that this is a family business.
Right.
It doesn't seem, you know, corporate, we're going to go out and this is how we do things. It very much seems like you and Sarah, I think every time I've been on the sails, you and Sarah have both been on, and, you know, I only remember your kids when they were little, so maybe they were on as well and I didn't know it. But it feels like you're just taking friends out. That's the vibe that you have on your sails.
Well, that's how we started, because when we lived in the Keys for, I guess from Labor Day to Memorial Day, we had family and friends visit every week down there. And I would take them sailing on our personal boat. And I remember telling my wife, you know, if we could charge your family per trip, you know,
we'd be rich.
I can make some money here, you know. So we kind of adapted that whole thing, and it really was for us to go sailing every day and enjoy our lifestyle and have our freedom. And then if we could get people to come in and enjoy it with us, and we can share it with them, that's even better. And so that's kind of how we started. And I have two captains that run also. Captain Stephen and Captain Austin, and Stephen's more of a full-time captain. And he has a sailboat. He's been sailing the Caribbean. He's very passionate about sailing also. And Austin is as well. And so I don't control them. You know, the goal is when we leave the dock, we go sailing wherever the best sailing is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a scripted type venue. It's where we can turn the engine off and enjoy the sailing. We bought fuel at the beginning of the year, and we're getting ready to buy another, fill up the tanks again here for condensation during the winter months. So we buy fuel once or twice a year.
Really? That's it?
That's it. You know, so it's primarily sailing. And all my crew are, you know, they're college kids usually, and they're just like my kids, and they're just like family, and we have to, you know, work out their differences in the world and help guide them along. And so you get that family feeling even with my other crew, you know, because they are like our family, and we, you know, we'll get back from a trip and we'll all go out to dinner, and, you know, I mean, we're close to them. So I think you'll get that family feeling even if my family's not always on board.
Yeah.
So,
are you happy that your kids have decided that they want to come back to the family business, or, you know, because sometimes, like when you hear actors say, "I don't want my child to be an actor because I know how hard it is," you know, very different analogy, but I'm curious whether you think that's a good thing.
Yes and no, and it's just like that. I know how the hard times are, and I want them, if they're going to be as passionate about it as Sarah and myself are, then I think that's great, because then it's not like work when it's hard. You can get through the hard times. If you're doing it strictly for a paycheck or because it's an easy gig because my parents own the boat and all that, then you're not going to enjoy it. It's not worth it. So I think, you know, both of them, my daughter graduated from Florida, and she has a degree in telecommunications, and she, you know, she does all sorts of stuff on the internet that I don't even know how all that works.
We don't want to know.
And you know, I can tell you, she called me up. It was Father's Day a year and a half ago, and she called me up. She said, "Dad, I need you to come to the boat, take some pictures with me." And I'm like, you know, okay. So I drive to the boat and we take some pictures, and, you know, some company gave her money to take 4 pictures. You know, how does that work? That's way beyond me. So they, you know, they have their other interests too, and but if they want to do it because they enjoy it, I'm there for them. If I get to the point where I see it's too much strain on them, then I hope they'll choose something else. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, you only want that your kids be happy. That's,
right.
You know.
Right.
So, but if they can run it and I can go sailing on my other boat, hey, I'm all in. That's there, you know.
Well, kind of on that note, I was curious how much maintenance is needed for a boat like that. I mean, it always looks beautiful. It never looks like, oh, that kind of needs a little bit of work. And I'm curious not only about the part, I don't know anything about boats, about sailing, so I'm going to be really ignorant in how I ask my questions.
That's fine.
But the boat part that actually sits in the water, but also those sails, I would think that those would require a heck of a lot of maintenance. The sails, the rigging.
Okay, so we'll start with the part in the water. We haul out every year or 2 years. The Coast Guard makes us haul out every 2 years for their inspection. So, and then we paint the bottom. If there's any sandblasting to be done or welding, we do all that. So that's done every 2 years.
Is that done here, or do you have to haul it somewhere?
St. Augustine Marine Center. So we haul it out, and they do that. And then they also inspect all of our rigging. So all the standing rigging, the rigging that doesn't move, that gets replaced every 10 years. And we have to pull our mast out every 10 years, and they inspect that. The sails are kind of the easiest part because they only last about 3 years, and then they're done. So we have.
And what does that mean? Like, do they get holes in them? Do they get thin? Like, what does that mean?
Have you ever put on a pair of socks that have been bleached too much?
Yeah.
Okay.
They get real thin and
they just blow out. So so that's what happens to the sails. Just the UV on the sails, it just kills them. So recently we had a personal boat in Texas, and we had a sailmaker there that did some work on that, and he did such a good job that he's making sails for the Freedom now. We used to have them done down Fort Lauderdale, but they were getting shipped out overseas to do eventually. They went that route. And so now we're using a guy out of Texas, makes them right there in the loft, and about each sail, my head sails, so my jib top, and my staysail have to be replaced about every year and a half. And my main and forward, which are the bigger sails, I can get usually about 3 years out of them. So it's just spending money on that. But we save it on the fuel, so it's,
What does it take what do you have to do when hurricanes are headed our way? What do you do with the Freedom? Where does it, do you leave it there? Where does it go?
No, so being a native Floridian, we've seen, I don't know how many hurricanes over the years. So, and each one has its own personality.
Right.
So we look at each one. You never know, right? So we look at each one. We look at, I listen to the forecast, and I get my gut feeling, and we look at each one differently. So in 2005, we had, I think, 3 of them that came across the state of Florida. Okay. So on 2 of those, we ran up to Brunswick, Georgia, and I hate to tell my hurricane stories, my hurricane holes, but there's a great marina there at the Brunswick Landing downtown. And they have land on one side and land on the other side, and you're down a canal.
Kind of protected.
And very protected, and they have been wonderful for us, where I could call them, and they made room for me. So 2005 we did that, and then last year we did that for one of the hurricanes. I can't tell you hurricane names because they all kind of
me too.
blend together.
And a lot of them amount to not so much.
Yeah, so so we'll run up to Brunswick, and this time both of my kids who are supposed to be helping me, they were other places of the country. So Sarah and I took the Freedom up to Brunswick by ourselves and sailed it back down too. And then we've been at St. Augustine Marine Center. We've hauled out before. We were out for a Coast Guard inspection when one hurricane hit.
Do you have to worry if you're not in the water? Is that even more worrisome?
For me, it is if it's a bigger storm. So if it's a small storm, if it's a Cat 1 and it blows through pretty quick, then being up on the hard there is fine. I'm comfortable with that. Anything over a Cat 2, then I worry about the boats falling over.
Yeah.
And also worry about not being able to get the boat back in the water. So my preference would be to be 150, 200 miles away from the hurricane where it makes landfall. So if we can run north or south, or I can actually get into Green Cove Springs, drop my top mast, and get underneath that bridge.
How do you drop a top? How do you do that?
Okay, so on the schooner,
because I've seen pictures of trying to get under bridges where they're like this.
Right. So we're a topsail schooner, so we have the 2 lower masts, and then we have 2 top masts. So
top mast meaning taller?
They're taller, and they're a second spar, so a second mast, and we're able to lift them up a couple of inches, pull the pin out, and then lower them down to the deck. So that takes my mast height from being 62 feet to 45 feet. And then I can get underneath the Shands Bridge, and I could actually get all the way up into Palatka or Willacca and weather storm out there, which is more central Florida, kind of give me, so I have options. So my preference is, if I can be 150 miles away from it, then I'm happy. I'd rather be in the water and spend a couple of days transiting one way or the other.
I can't even imagine, though, because, just thinking of people who don't have something like that to deal with, we're always waiting till the last minute. We don't know where to evacuate to because the storms are going all over and nobody's really sure where it's going. And often they start in South Florida and they head up the coast. And so no matter where you want to go, you got to go pretty far west. Right. I can't imagine the stress that it must be to figure out what you're going to do with this ship, this boat, that's your livelihood. It's not real small. Nope. And which call do you make? And when do you make it?
No, you're right. Of all the things that we've talked about, that is the most stressful time in our household because we have to leave before any evacuations take place.
And then you've got a home as well, right?
We don't even worry about that. That's not even important.
If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not.
But we have to leave early because once they get evacuations, they shut bridges down.
Yeah. And I'm sure that the marinas don't have a lot of room once people figure out where they should be going.
And that's the one time where being a captain and an owner is the worst because that decision is based strictly on me. And I tell you, it's some are clear, some are just like, I don't know, I have to be proactive. I can't just sit here and if it's forecast to hit St. Augustine, the chances are it's not going to. But I can't sit here and wait.
And you're also giving up sale income as you leave.
And we don't days early. At that point we don't even worry about that. We usually you just got to save the boat. But then I'm also putting my wife or crew with me on that, and obviously the boat's not worth your life, but we still have to run from it, and it's just crazy. So, and we have one coming up here now. We're worried about this one.
Yeah, and where's it going to go? It was a spaghetti, literally a spaghetti model when I last looked at it.
Yeah, so,
it looked like a child scribbled stuff.
It's crazy. We look at it. Hopefully, if it comes across Florida, it'll get to the Gulf and come back across Florida and lose some of its power.
Yeah.
But we're looking at which side of Florida. Is it going to be south of us or north of us when it comes across? Where we get the northeast quadrant. It's just crazy.
So you can probably ride out maybe a Category 1 or something in the marina here?
The marina here is so, it depends on whether the Cat 1 comes, further out or close in. We've had one where, the one where we had the southeast winds that lasted forever last year. Last year or 2 years ago, we went up, it was forecast to go way out to the east of us. Then they forecasted to do along the coast, and then so I think we went to Jacksonville and we anchored up at Julington Creek, and then we came back because they then forecasted to go to the west coast. And
so even when you make your decision, you're not necessarily staying where you decided to go. It could change.
No, then we came back here, and this might be 2 years ago, and I ended up on the fuel dock, and I have 2-inch lines that I use just for hurricane lines. And so we tied the Freedom up there, and I'm always on the boat during the storms. And
really?
Oh, absolutely. I would not be able to eat or sleep if I was somewhere else. So I'm on the boat, and the dock started breaking off because we had southeast winds for 2 days, and the winds only got up to 65 miles an hour.
But it was just so many,
just constant
batterings.
Constant.
Yeah.
And I think my dock lines held the dock together because where I was moored, those docks didn't come apart. The ones 2 feet behind me broke off, and boats were sunk all around the place.
Yeah, I remember that. So what do you do in that situation? You're on the boat. What goes through your mind? Like, what do you do?
So I'm riding it out, and everything's fine for a while, and then I start to see the docks start coming apart. It's probably 3 a.m, and I'm watching. I have my flag on the foremast, and it's still blowing southeast. So we're still getting a lot of swell action coming in. And about 6:30, just as sunrise comes up, I was able to jump off the boat, and I went up to the breezeway there, and I called Sarah. I said, Sarah, the docks are coming apart, and I'm not sure whether the Freedom's gonna make it, because it'll blow us into the Bridge of Lions, and their boat's already sunk around us and all that. I'm thinking this might be it, and And she, so I told her to call her back. So I'll go back and get on the boat, and I'm sitting back on the quarter deck, and I just keep watching the flag because that's my wind indicator. And about 7:30, the flag just shifted a few more degrees to the true south. And I was like, I could take a deep breath. I'm like, okay, we're going to make it. So I just needed a 10-degree shift.
So if I'm understanding right, you, even with all your sailing experience, if the Freedom broke free, you knew you couldn't save it?
Yeah, not enough power to fight that 50 knots of wind and the current running out. I mean, I would try,
But I was just trying to understand
and to get all those lines off the dock and not wanting to put other people's life in jeopardy. So I'm by myself. I mean, the boat's not worth having a crew member down there that we might, get in trouble against the bridge or something. So, or maybe I'll be motoring around with the whole dock tied to me. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to change the topic a little bit. I'm curious. The Freedom is it's just an amazing sight to see. And I love it. It's, as I told you, I think it's one of my favorite things about St. Augustine. But when my kids and I used to cross the bridge, and we would always say, "Oh, there's the Freedom," when you were out on a sail and your sails were out. However, again, I'm not a boat person, but it's just an awesome sight to see, and it takes you back to what it might have looked like, 100, 200 years ago.
Right.
I'm curious, when you sail into marinas, I would think you're probably sailing into sometimes marinas that have very, very expensive yachts. And if I were on the Freedom, I would kind of have this attitude like, ha, you might be that, but look what I got.
It's great. Now, we don't go into marinas too often with it because it doesn't maneuver very well. But the nice thing is we've sailed up and down basically from Brunswick down to the Keys and that area once in a while for fun stuff. And we've gone to city landings like the landing in Jacksonville. There's one in Port Orange, and even in Cape Canaveral we've tied up to some of the city wharfs and all that. And it's really amazing how many locals come down and look at the boat. And we've even been offshore and had somebody radio us from a condo, for me, it was probably 4 years before I had a captain that would run just a couple of days for me. And I remember the first time I let them take the boat out by themselves, and I went to the seawall here in St. Augustine.
And you saw it.
I'm like, wow, as beautiful as I thought she was with, being on deck. And I mean, it's sometimes hard to believe that it is my vessel.
It's just amazing to see it. I love it. I love it when you're out on a sail, and my kids grew up saying, "Mom, there's the Freedom."
That's awesome.
And it was always fun to cross the Bridge of Lions and see you out on a sail.
I've had people get on board, and we'll go through the Bridge of Lions, we'll put the sails up, and then go, "Oh, this is the boat we saw from the seawall." Like they didn't realize that they were on that boat,
Without the sails out, they didn't figure it out.
That's always kind of fun.
So did you ever pull up in Jacksonville next to Shad Khan's yacht?
No, the last time we were there, he didn't own the Jaguars yet. So, but we did a couple of tall ship festivals there back in the, I guess 2004 or 6 or something like that. And it was nice to be, being a local, and getting to Jacksonville and having my boat there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very proud of it.
You should be.
And so it was kind of nice to be sailing around the harbor there, and but St. Augustine's still, what I consider home.
So did Sarah have to pass a sailing test before you decided you'd marry her?
No, she.
I mean, what if you married someone who didn't like to sail? How would that work?
Right, I don't know. She didn't know anything about boats or sailing when we got married. But I can tell you that it's, and I don't mean to sound chauvinist, but I have seen her down below in rough weather, just cooking up, anything that, just go down and she'll cook and bring food up and all that. It's amazing. I mean, she is awesome on the boat, and she's a great crew member. She has her limitations. There's a couple things she won't do. She doesn't climb in the rigging, right out. She does not go out on the bowsprit.
What's that?
The the pointy thing that goes out
Oh,
on the back.
yeah,
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 she
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
go out there, and she does not jump. So I have to get her right beside the dock. She has to step off. She
I like her.
she she's not a jumper.
Well, why are boats, ships, whatever? Why are they referred to in the feminine?
So good question, and there's hundreds of answers. But from my standpoint, first of all, they're beautiful. So that's one of the things. They need to be well maintained.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm taking notes
they-
to take back.
they take all of your time and attention, most of your money. They're graceful, they're elegant, they're fickle, they're everything good and bad that you would think of from a woman's standpoint to a vessel. They're so similar in that, and they're for instance, you've done the same thing, so how's the freedom? People talk about the freedom like it's part of our family. I mean, I've been in the stores and so how's the freedom doing? Well, what about my daughter or son? We don't care about them, But I mean, they're just beautiful and elegant, and they're, you can't wait to get back and see them and go sailing, and so it's.
But is there some historical reason why?
No.
Or is that just what people started doing?
I think just
They
they've
all have
always.
female names if there is a gender to the name.
Yeah, they've just always referred to them as in the female name. Kind of like we used to do hurricanes the same way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but vessels are a whole lot more soothing. Than,
So, as you know, I was a judge last year for the Holiday Regatta that the yacht club puts on, the St. Augustine Yacht Club, and the Freedom won. Was it the grand prize you won? Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I was judging, I was looking at the Freedom, and I was thinking, that must just take hours and hours and hours to decorate that thing.
Yep.
And so I'm curious, how long does it take to decorate for something like the Holiday Regatta when you deck it out with all those lights, and how do you power them?
It's crazy. So my wife told me to not say that I hate the holiday.
But she's not here,
She's
so.
Not, I think and I love the outcome. I mean, I really do.
It's gorgeous.
It is a nightmare for me.
It was really unfair, I will tell you. It's unfair because the other boats were very well done, and then you see the Freedom, and it's like, well, come on.
And then we have to come up with a different idea every year.
Yeah.
And we've won several of them over the years, and then on that particular night, so we have our normal lights that we do for Nights of Lights,
Right.
And that takes, I don't know how many hours, days to get that. We'll start working on them here this week, and it'll take us 2 weeks to get the standard lights up, and then for the regatta, we start Saturday morning.
It's on Saturday night.
Because we have charters on Friday night, so we can't do this ahead of time because
How in the heck
we have
do
to
you
go
get that
sailing.
done?
So we have to have all the sailing part working. So we start Saturday morning. We have stuff at the house all prepped. We do it all Saturday, and then we can't even test it because it's not
light out.
Yeah. So it's a crapshoot sometimes when we flip the switches whether it's going to work or not. Now, some of them over the years we've built some of it at the house and brought them over by U-Haul and all that, and then Sunday morning we have to take all that down and do our charters on Sunday. So it's a nightmare. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong, and all the other boats out there are just amazing that they do this, and I think a lot of people don't understand that this is done strictly for fun.
Yeah.
There's no monetary value, and these guys, even on the small boats, they spend thousands of dollars.
It was fun. It was really fun.
Oh, it's crazy, and it does. I mean, I feel it in my heart how nice it is to have all these boaters do this just for bragging rights and for fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to judge it. Unfortunately, this year with the coronavirus, they're not going to be able to do it. But so how do you power all those lights? Are there generators?
So we have a generator mostly now with the LED lights. We can run everything just off of our inverter, which takes 12-volt energy and converts it to 110, and we can run everything off that. There.
That's a lot of lights.
Yeah, in the old days, it was really hard because you had to have a generator running, you had to have the inverter running, and we'd still sometimes overpower the circuits. My wife has these snow machines that she likes for me to hang up 50 feet in the rigging. And when you
I
flip
like
those
how you
switches,
said that.
it's like
That she likes for me to hang up.
every year she's like, get the snow machines out. I'm like, oh, curse the snow machines. But that, she's the admiral. So.
Well, do you have any good stories? Well, let me backtrack. People can get married on the Freedom, right?
Absolutely.
Are you the officiant when that
No,
happens, or
we
who
do
does
the
that?
sailing part when they bring their own, whether it's a minister, or notary, or whatever. They bring that. Because I wouldn't have the time to do that and man the helm. So we, I try to hide back in the back with the helm and keep everything quiet and let them have the service up front. And
So do you have any good stories about any sales you've done or any passengers?
it's just over the years. I mean, we've had so many great, passengers, and I mean they're all wonderful. I only have a few horror stories over 20 years, which is amazing. But we've seen on 3 occasions we've seen whales coming back in the harbor. One time we had 7 whales hang out with us.
You're kidding.
It was crazy. We had 3
Boy,
or 4 humpback and some right whales. Oh yeah.
What a deal those passengers got.
Oh yeah, and we only had like 15 on board. This was probably 10 years ago, and we're sailing back in. We're probably only making a knot, and the sun's setting, and these whales were, they were 15, 20 feet away from us, just hanging out with us. And so, obviously we weren't get back on time. We stayed out there till we couldn't see them anymore, and then came in. And one time we had a mother and her calf come up alongside, and I mean the mother was half the size of the Freedom, just huge. So we see.
And does that worry you at all? Can they do anything to the ship as they get close to it?
I don't worry on the Freedom because she's a steel ship and she's 35 tons, and and they're we're not going fast. We're not being aggressive. They're not being aggressive. They just kind of roll over and look at you and hang out. If they were worried, they would move on because we're not.
Yeah, but you're not worried the ship's gonna.
No, not at all, not at all. And it was funny because on the mother and her calf, we had a dolphin breach and come way out of the water, and nobody even said anything because they're still looking at the.
Yeah, the dolphin's just an added side effect. Yeah.
So,
and how did you pull that off to get those all right next to the ship?
Yeah, remote control. We've seen these huge rays and turtles, and of course the roseate spoonbills, and the marine life's amazing. One time, I saw a 6-foot rattlesnake, and they blow themselves up so they swim on top of the water, and it was probably 200 yards from us, and I told the passenger, I said, look guys, look over there, we've got a rattlesnake. They're like, that's not a rattlesnake. So we kind of eased over there, and it's really weird looking. It looks like a monster, because he's on top of the water. And so you see, being out there every day, you see all sorts of things. But the rattlesnake was more of a rarity. And he was just going, from Anastasia or to the Cross or something. I don't know.
Do you ever have anybody fall overboard?
No.
No crew member or anything?
No.
Slip?
So we do annually we do our man overboard drill with the crew, and what we do is we wait for a nice day, and we make each crew member jump in the water and see how fast the Freedom leaves them, because it's pretty intimidating when you come up out for breath and all you see is the stern. And we don't turn around real fast, so it takes us a while to come about and pick them up, and so they work really hard on kind of keeping passengers away from that type of thing.
Well, I was going to ask you if you ever had any unruly passengers, because it's like a plane where you can't kick them out, you can't tell them to leave.
But also like a plane, it's a federal offense. So I'd say in 20 years I've had maybe 3 times to use that card. And I think as we've gotten, or maybe I've gotten more mature, people try not to test me as much because I'm not 35 anymore. But once in a while, you have to kind of warn them and talk to them, and I don't put them on a defensive mode. I'm an easygoing guy. Just let's calm down a little bit, and then if that doesn't work, then I can say, hey, look, if you keep it up, you're now interfering with the safe passage of commercial vessel, and it's a federal offense. And they don't just slap you on the wrist; you kind of go to jail. So it's just like an airline. They escort you off the boat, and you don't pass go. You don't collect $200, So, but it's very rare. First of all, I think the tourists in St. Augustine are
they're pretty low key.
Yeah, they are. They're here. This isn't, which is a good thing. And I don't mean this bad about Key West, but you have a different persona when you vacation in Key West. Like Mexico and all that. We're here. They're
I
here.
moved here from Las Vegas. So.
Yes, right. Yeah, absolutely. So and our people, our general age is 35 to 70. And they're staying at hotels or bed and breakfasts, and
they're pretty mellow.
Relaxed, and they want to come out and go sailing, and I think the sailing alone kind of calms everybody down. That's kind of what I like about it too. It's peaceful.
Where's the most surprising place that your passengers have been from? Because we get visitors from all over the world. Have you had passengers where you thought, "Wow, I can't believe somebody from there is here"?
Oh wow. I think for me, and I don't know why, I think having passengers from like the Middle East to go sailing is I think that's kind of odder from from Egypt, stuff like that. Like, well, okay, so you come here to go sailing,
I wouldn't think of St. Augustine as a place that they would have thought to visit, right?
Right.
It seems like we're not cosmopolitan enough, perhaps, or how would we be on their radar even?
Right, and obviously the Australia, New Zealand have them that far from home.
But I would picture them to love being on a sail.
Right. So that kind of makes that
again. That's very
stereotypical
part of me, but
no, the English. When we get the English, I like to pick on them because I love the nautical history, and I love Nelson and reading about the English history, but also like the War of 1812. And so, if I get a chance to make someone from England raise the sails, then it's my idea of pressing them into service for a little while. So,
I went on a trade mission a number of years ago to London with the Florida Realtors, and we were lucky enough to get a private tour of the Houses of Parliament. Okay. And so we were in this kind of holding tank, this big, massive room. And of course, everything's old and historic, been there for years and years. So there was this massive room that they wait, the members of Parliament wait in until they go out to the place where they actually do the things that you see on television. I don't know the names of their rooms, but where they make the laws or where they debate. And so in this big, massive hall or holding tank, they had these old tapestries, and each tapestry depicted a naval battle. Oh, wow. And so they were talking about each of them and explaining, and then they said, "Now here's Sir Francis Drake, and he's a naval hero," and yada yada. And I said, "Well, actually, I'm from St. Augustine, and he's a pirate."
That's right. That's right.
It's all a matter of perspective, right?
Did you get to wear a wig?
No, they didn't make us wear a wig.
Okay.
But I did get to sit in the seats that they sat in. It was actually pretty cool. But
and for us, I've always had a distaste for pirates, being a sailor. Because when I started sailing back in the late 70s, early 80s, they had a lot of the pirating for drug running, so it's always been, it's still a real thing today. Now they hold you ransom, and unfortunately, I don't think my kids would pay my ransom. So
well, they would if they wanted the freedom back.
I still worry about pirates, but yeah, Sir Francis Drake was, burning St. Augustine was not a kind thing. So. But Lord Nelson was he was an amazing sailor and tactician, and so I love reading stories. And John Paul Jones, who was not a Native American, was basically the father of our Navy, and that came from his distaste for England. So
I imagine you have to know a lot of history in order to take people out on sails. They probably, because we're such a historic town, they probably want to learn a little bit about that as they're sailing.
Yeah, they I don't know if it's a prerequisite or not. I enjoy, and that's is the nautical history is what I enjoy. So whether it's from Menendez to the English history or to our own history, and the schooners played such a large role in the War of 1812. So they say that over 500 schooners registered as privateers to help fight the commerce trade war against England. To help win the war. And it was really about England taking American sailors before 1812, 1811, 1810, and pressing them into service. And we didn't have any rights either for cargo or for our sailors. So we didn't have a navy. We had somewhere between 8 and 11 ships for our navy, depending on what tally you want to take. And England had over 400 navy ships. So we couldn't fight them on that type of front. So they took owner-operators like myself and gave them a license to go and prey on commerce ships.
It was almost like a militia.
Yep. And so they bring the commerce ships, and you realize the commerce ships were loaded with crew members from other countries that were pressing the service. So the commerce ships didn't want to fight, just the few English officers. So that was after shutting down their commerce throughout the world. That's how we kind of resolved to get our naval rights and keeping them from stealing our sailors.
The schooner saved the day.
The schooner saved the day, yeah.
So I have one last question for you. I read on your website that you allow dogs on your sails.
Absolutely.
Are dogs just as well behaved on your sails as as people?
We warn the people ahead of time that if their dog is not well behaved, we put them in the anchor locker. So the people go in the anchor locker. The dog will keep.
The dog can stay.
But yeah, normally the dogs have been so well behaved, and it's amazing how they like sailing.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know what my dog would do about that. I'm not so sure.
Yeah. And once in a while, you'll have one that'll like bark at the dolphins. That's kind of fun, and the dolphins kind of get, But for us, a lot of people they'll do the Freedom, say on their last day or something, and so you can't leave your dog in the car. We have space, so no, we I don't want a single person to bring 4 pit bulls or something. But yeah, the normal person that's on vacation has a dog with them. The only animal that we refused was a 13-foot python.
Oh my God, who would ask?
He had it draped around his neck, and
who's gonna want to be on a boat with a python?
Not me. Not me. I don't.
Not me. I mean, I wouldn't.
No.
Come on.
No. Yep. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, absolutely not.
Sure.
No snakes on board. And so yeah.
What a weenie.
That would have been a night. I mean, I just couldn't. I mean,
I wouldn't have boarded.
No, I wouldn't have either. So I don't know how they're going to run the boat, but
a python would have found its way in the water.
Yeah, no, I don't do snakes.
I can't imagine that guy could go anywher. I mean, who would?
He was at the dock with it.
Yeah, but try to get into anything. Try to.
I don't know.
Come on.
I don't know. We had little cats in their bags and all that, and had a bird, a little parakeet in his cage and all that. So yeah,
that's funny. I wouldn't have thought you'd have all those animals.
Yeah, well, we're relaxed. We try, and it goes back to like your family. We want to make it a relaxed experience like you would if your family. So got dogs, yeah, no big deal, as long as they don't bite somebody. So, and we try to put them at the end of a bench or something to where that, because there's also the whole group of people that don't like pets of any kind. So we're trying to, So
I don't know any of those people.
Yeah.
So.
But and I'll say the one thing, like right now we're still social distancing on the Freedom.
Yeah, you're at half capacity.
Or just we can carry 41. We're about 25 people, and so that gives this kind of space between each couple.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's not that we don't have any rules that mandate us doing that. It's just that again goes back to family. I at this point in time don't want to sit shoulder to shoulder to a stranger, so I don't expect my customers to either. So we're just trying to make it nice and easy for them, and we'll see what happens down the road, vaccines and all that kind of stuff. And we ask that they'll wear a mask getting on, and then once they get in their seat, they can take the mask off. Yeah, and just normal stuff.
I got a feeling you'll be around.
Yeah, hope so.
Well, thank you. I've really enjoyed it.
My pleasure. Out of my box, but I hope we did well.
No, it's been really fun.
All right, well, good. Well, thank you.
So this has been Captain John Zaruba. I'm sorry, Captain John Zaruba with the Schooner Freedom, one of my favorite things to do in St. Augustine. So it's been another episode of the St. Augustine Chronicles, the where, the who, and the how'd they get there. Watch, like, or follow us on Facebook at St. Augustine Chronicles Podcast or at SA Chronicles. You can find us also on YouTube at St. Augustine Chronicles Podcast. Watch, listen, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes. We're produced by Pete Melfi at the 904 Now studio, so you can also find us on the 904 Now. And be on the lookout. We drop new shows every Monday. Thanks for tuning in.